how you doing? This is Mike Dean. I'm here in Montreal playing bass with Vista Chino, with Mr. Brant Bjork, Bruno Fevry, and John Garcia. Happy to be here.
Great. So, no one can mistake your hair for anybody but yourself. COC.
Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah, I play bass in COC ordinarily. I just helping these guys out. They had to play out of the United States and needed a bass player spur of the moment, and it was fun. So I just kept on doing it. So here we are.
Very cool. How does the experience differ from one group to the next?
COC is easy because we always wrote our own songs, and for us that's easier because you're not gonna mess up someone else's songs. There's no expectations, you know. It's like, this is like you're taking some Kyuss songs. Part of the set is Kyuss material, which people are familiar with, and you have to, you have to play some Nick Oliveri-isms, some Scott Reeder-isms. So in that regard, you have to go to school a little bit and figure out what's important on the records and try to convey that in an original way that's not ripping those guys off too much.
I mean, to see a guy of your age on the road, helping out your friends and jamming out, it's not something you see every day.
I mean, this is just good. This is good. This is like building your musical chops to come out and play with these guys, because it's a really high standard, but it's a good feeling, and it's they make it look easy, and just by the spirit of it, it becomes easy. So I think it's helping me kind of grow as a musician, and it'll be fun to get back to COC and throw some of that spirit back into it, rebuild it a little bit.
Very cool. So this publication is called Shed My Skin, and hey man.
Bruno.
So our roots are in the hardcore scene, right? I've been covering hardcore for years, underground. And essentially what we want to do with this magazine is speak with people in bands, people of all ages, about struggles that they've been through over the years, things that they've overcome to get where they are. Hence the Shed My Skin reference.
Right.
You gotta shed your skin to start again.
Right.
And to survive and overcome and overpower.
It's a reptilian metaphor.
Speaking of reptilians, actually, I used to talk to artists a lot about reptilians actually years ago.
Oh yeah? They read some David Icke?
Yeah. It's funny, that's...
I think that concept is, I think the David Icke concept is a pretty good metaphor, but anyone who's going to say that that's literally the case, that our overlords are reptiles, is kind of going off on a tangent that leads to I don't know, more humorous things they could say. I don't know.
Sure.
I get the origin of a thought like that occurring to you, but there's kind of a limit to the usefulness of that metaphor.
So I mean, if the global elite are not in fact reptilians, what are they? What are they made of?
They're just the more fortunate primates like us, that I can't confirm or deny that there's some sort of extraterrestrial element to their success, but they're just the more ruthless representations of our evolving species, so that's all. They're just you or I in a different situation, able to make the sort of choices that they do, I suppose.
Yeah. So what kind of struggles have you overcome to get where you are today?
Nothing significantly tragic or worth telling a story. I mean, just the usual sort of human insecurity and the economic insecurity that goes along with like pursuing something artistic that's not particularly commercial. The rent is due every month unless you got some kind of squat situation, which is not always ideal. So yeah, you gotta believe in what you're doing and really take the steps to make things pay off and make things add up, you know. And that's I'm not talking about in a hugely commercial way, but just in a practical way. So just believing in the music and enough to make that happen, you know, something to overcome. So. Get. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Good shot.
Little cameo.
Oh yeah.
Cute. You like animals?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. I mostly hang out with dogs myself.
Oh, cool. What kind of dogs do you have?
Well, you know, 2 of them came from the shelter, so one of them I'm assuming is an American Bulldog, and he looks like a pit bull pretty much. And one of them is what I would call a Australian cattle dog, or blue heeler. I think that's what she looks like anyway. And one of them is definitely an Australian Shepherd that came from a farm. So if I need to herd some livestock, I don't happen to have any, but if I need to, you know, I'm in good shape.
Cool. Now going back, we were saying before we were interrupted by this feline
Interloper.
Yeah. Making ends meet and surviving as an artist. You know, how do you manage that?
You just got to book a show and go play it and show up and have it be good and try to build on that, you know. And I think I was just fortunate that, you know, doing it in COC, it was at a time where people were just hungry for that new style of music, hardcore, and there was a kind of a spontaneous network in all kinds of cities where you could go and play a show and people would come see it. And then we started to do our thing with, you know, where we really started combining like more older elements into the music and metal and rock and things like that, and not really sticking to the very narrow script of hardcore at that time. I mean, it went from being like a liberating thing to just another conformist fad, like an alternate fad, but still a fad.
Yeah.
So just we kind of reacted to that spontaneously, and that a lot of people could identify with that, and I think that kind of just boosted us up. So then that gave us a little, you know, starting point to step out and do other things. And we've just been fortunate like that. I think it's harder for kids today. You know, music is a smaller part of the cultural landscape. Everybody's like playing games and looking at their phone or, you know, whatever. And there's a lot of transformation that's good about that, but there's also a lot of just distraction that's involved in that. It's like the, you know, the spectacle of. So it's more difficult. Music is a smaller part of the landscape for the masses, but that doesn't mean there's not really awesome stuff happening on this stuff.
Sure. I'll give you a couple more, you know, brain teasers, I guess, before I let you go and, you know, recover from your.
I just rolled out of the bed, man.
Long slumber.
Yeah. Too well rested.
Now you're saying the kids and adults are on their phones constantly, you know, tapping away. They say it's the, you know, zombie generation. You know, it's the zombification of humanity with these, you know, electronic devices. To what degree do you think that's affected the fabric of our society, humanity in general, in the developed world, human relationships, culture at large?
That's a little above my pay grade, but I'd say technology like that is really a two-edged sword. There's like all types of possibilities that are presented to us, and you know, I mean, the media, you see it in the media. It's a little bit overstated, but you know, all these types of social revolutions that have happened, like particularly in the Arab world, things like that, just because you have the connectivity to have the whole world watching, you know, your struggle and your oppression or whatever, you know, and the transformation, you know, literally people in Libya and other places like that, just being able to coordinate their efforts and get their word out. You know, that's really positive stuff, and you know, of course, you have the means of communication and creativity in your hands with being able to make a video of something and put it right up to an audience of people, perhaps. But then the negative side is like you say, a lot of it's just for strictly amusement, and also there's an overload of information. You know, when I was a kid, there's, say in the United States, 3 TV networks, print media. It's like a rather centralized sort of media situation. But when something significant broke through to that, it was there for like the whole public to maybe have a debate about it. You know, whereas now people tune into the type of media that reinforces what they already think. There's right-wing sources of media, you know, cable networks and websites and such, and there's left-wing and there's apolitical and just, you know, whatever. So people don't tend to ever be exposed to anything that they don't want to be exposed to.
Right.
So it's a ghettoization of you know, philosophy. So is that good or bad? I don't know. How does that affect evolution? I don't know.
Lastly, I guess I'll ask you just about hardcore music. You know, the style, the scene has come a long way. The values. Are you all connected still, or in touch, or aware of the hardcore scene today?
You know, it might just because I'm an old bastard, but a lot of the stuff that kind of passes for hardcore nowadays just doesn't really do it for me. It seems like a lot of whining. You know, it's just kids blowing off steam, and that's a good thing. It's cathartic, but it's much the same as in the original day of hardcore, except then it was more of an original thing, which is to say that not very much of it was really that good, and the stuff that was inspired really stayed with you. I mean, at the time there was kind of a scene, and you know, people felt like part of something, and you know, I think that's good. That's good for people. It's particularly good for young people. To have you know, something artistic that creates a space for them where they feel like themselves. So I'm like, more power to it. But as far as musical qualities, something that I want to listen to, the examples of that came out of hardcore, as far as enduring musical statements that I just want to put on the turntable. It's really down to like just a few bands, you know. I mean, and maybe just a few numbers by some of those bands. You know, obviously Bad Brains stick with me, you know. And then there's always something wild card I forgot about that's awesome, like RKL, you know, something like that. You know, but you know, other things like Discharge, I mean, they were really inventive and they helped to create styles of music, but you know, when you go back and listen to their contribution, it may not just stand up as far as something you wanna such a wide-reaching cultural thing. It was just, you know, all categorized under one name. It's hard to say, but yeah, I think the Bad Brains kind of stick with me, even though they're like religious fanatic, you know, nutcases.
Sure.
No, they're cool dudes, but you know,
yeah,
just the whole religion, the whole monotheism, Afrocentricized monotheism thing is just kind of whatever. That's your trip, you know. I just think they play good music.
Yeah. Remember Leeway?
Leeway from Nutley, New Jersey, of course. Those are cool guys, man.
You ever play with them?
Of course. At least twice I can think of, yeah. Maybe Sunday at CBGB's one time, yeah. Maybe 1987 is a good guess. Yeah.
Remember the singer once told me that Scott Ian would come to the Sunday matinees at CBGB's and stand up front at Leeway shows, and then a couple years later Anthrax started sounding a little more like Leeway than they did before.
Yeah.
Metal dudes, you know, taking inspiration from hardcore.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, you know, we took a lot of inspiration for like the music that we heard since we were kids. I mean, I remember being 5-6 years old, listening to finding my brother's Black Sabbath records, first one and Paranoid, and just being fascinated with all that, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of all the stuff that we came in there, you know, being into CSC for. I mean, I wasn't really into much hardcore until I heard Black Flag.
Right.
Well, there wasn't much hardcore to hear, but
sure.
That was what did it for me, and they were kind of getting into that slower type of thing, a little bit, you know, damaged. So.
Quickly, your opinion on the whole Black Flag thing that's happening now?
My opinion is it kind of, in a way, it mirrors the whole Kyuss lives thing. I kind of, while you could, basically I could say that Mr. Home and Mr. Ginn were inventive, musical, genius might not even be a strong word, maybe savant is a better word. They had some great ideas, they came up with some great music. At some point, they stepped away from their respective projects, and then at some point, after stepping away, they sought to deny others who were just as important in those projects with the opportunity to go and play those songs and recreate that stuff, and they both became litigious bullies, you know, in suing the other artists involved. So I see like kind of a parallel to that, and Kyuss Lives. I think that the gang came up with some great stuff, like helped to really invent a whole style of music, and then helped to sort of destroy the boundaries of it, which to me is so much more fascinating, you know, as Black Flag went along. But what he's doing now has no legitimacy, and he's attempting to prevent the more legitimate heirs to that band who are doing something more in the spirit. That would be Chuck Dukowski, Bill Stevenson, even Keith Morris, who's not my favorite singer of Black Flag, but he's just such a good dude, you know. That's the spirit of what it should be, yeah. And he's trying to squash that creativity, and it's totally contrary to all the things the sound bites he would say in interviews about, you know, in an absence of intimidation, where he would make these statements, in an absence of intimidation, you know, like art, you know, creativity can flourish. He had a bunch of statements like that, I remember, towards the end of Black Flag, where he's trying to get all cosmic, smoking a lot of weed and stuff, and I just think what he's doing now is like cranky, just a cranky old dude trying to ruin somebody else's good time. He was doing nothing with Black Flag until Flag came out, right, playing shows, and then lo and behold, some version of Black Flag involving Chavo Pederast himself and some dude that manages him. That's like a pro skater. It's just like, I'm speechless. I don't know what to tell you about that. Yeah, that's yeah.
You're definitely the guy to ask, and I'm pleased that you addressed that.
But Flag, dude, Flag is down. I'm down with Flag. Black Flag is something from, you know, 1979 to about 1987.
Okay. Those will be the final words of the interview. You know,
support Flag.
There we go. Thank you so much for your time, brother.